I'm joined now by Sandra Higgins, who is from the organisation Go Vegan World, and Oliver Dunn, who owns a number of restaurants. Oliver, come to you first. I think the point that Rachel made there at the end might be the one that makes most sense to somebody like you, who likes meat, who doesn't see a problem with eating animals, that this is about the environment, that really it's time for us to grow up and realise the harm that we're doing. What do you say to that point? I
suppose there's two arguments to it. Yes, the claim is that livestock and the production of livestock and everything around livestock has a negative effect on greenhouse gases and CO2 emissions, methane release, and it has global warming effects increased. And I think, if I'm not right in saying, it's about 5% of the overall global warming. But the flip side of that is as well, the consumption of meat gives an awful lot of pleasure in life. You know, it releases endorphins. It's something that people enjoy. I see it day in, day out on a daily basis. You know, people are genuinely happy and express outward of, oh God, that was amazing from eating meat. And I think in a world where mental illness is growing, depression is growing, all these things are growing, I think these little pleasures in life of enjoyment should be harnessed, you know, like chocolate, you know.
Is it harmless though? Because for somebody like Rachel, I'm sure Sandra would agree, it's not harmless.
Yeah, so there's absolutely two sides, you know, and vegans I completely 100% respect. Their opinion I 100% respect, but it is very much so their opinion. And their opinion, it's not harmless to them, and they would take great offence, I'm sure, on a lot of things of people eating meat. Me personally, I don't. As I said, I love eating meat since humans roamed this earth. Millions of years ago, we've been eating meat.
OK, so Sandra, it's a live and let live thing for Oliver. He respects what you do and he feels that you should do the same with him and his practices when it comes to eating meat.
It's not about respecting me as a vegan. It's about respecting the life of somebody who feels like me, someone who's capable of the same physical feelings that I have.
So when you say somebody, you're referring to animals?
I'm referring to other animals, yeah. And, you know, I get lots of pleasure from what I eat. I get maybe a lot more pleasure now than I did when I used to eat in restaurants like yours, as I did very frequently prior to being vegan. And the idea that my pleasure or my taste or anybody's pleasure or taste is worth more than the entire life of somebody else is ludicrous, and it's immoral. And I can understand that you don't feel like that, because there was a time when I didn't feel like that. But I run a sanctuary in County Meath, and when I first started that sanctuary, I wasn't vegan. And I got to know the individuals who came to me. And I realised that...
Again, the individuals you're referring to?
The animals. Yeah. I saw that they... On a very simple level, they had two eyes, a nose and a mouth, the same as me. I started to realise they had skin, they had sense organs the same as me, they had the same internal organs as me. And I saw that when they were hurt, they could feel physical pain and they could feel pleasure, psychological states of pleasure and joy. And when you see a lamb jumping on his four legs simultaneously, that's joy. When you see them running up and down the fields, chasing each other, or you see a mother licking her child, that's their pleasure. And how can our single taste of a quickly forgotten meal, how can that be more important than their whole life?
OK, well, Oliver, give me your take on that. You know, animals have feelings just like us.
Like, I find the use of language very interesting. And in the marketing campaigns, all vegan campaigns, they always use clever photography as well, where referring to animals as pretty much like humans, even giving them names like Charlotte and Mary and Johnny, and photographs used, they'd show like photographs of nearly animals with facial expressions, like human facial expressions, and they play and pull on the heartstrings of people.
So you don't accept they have feelings?
Trying to force their message home. Of course animals have feelings. Some animals, I'm sure, have feelings, and then regardless, you could go into then fish, you could debate, and there is an ongoing back and forth debate from science around the world that fish don't have feelings and don't have the neuropsychological capabilities to feel pain. So, you know, but it's all protein, it's all part of the vegan thing. So there's two sides to the story, but I think it's clever packaging to drive your point home.
All right, who'd like to get involved in our audience? Raise your hands there. Yes, we might come to the gentleman right in the centre in the suit and tie, and then we'll move on from there. Yep, go ahead.
Thanks, Sarah. CORMAC, HEALY from Meat Industry Ireland. I suppose just say it is about choice. Thankfully, from the perspective from which I come personally and for the sector I work in, we're very glad that the choice of the overwhelming population in the world is to include animal protein in their diet. In terms of the welfare issues, I mean, I think we have to just make a number of points. We operate to very high standards of welfare. Farmers know more than anyone about the care of animals. They're excellent in so doing. And to suggest that there's otherwise is to impugn their integrity. In terms of the climate as well, agriculture has a role in climate change. There's no question about that. But our production systems, our livestock production systems in Ireland are amongst the most sustainable in the globe. We are grass-based. We have the lowest carbon footprint in terms of our meat and dairy products. And we don't rest there. We are continuing to work to improve efficiency. So,
all right.
Thank you.
Beside you there? Yep.
Yeah, we need to clear up this climate issue. You quoted a figure of 5% of the impact of animal products, animal agriculture, in terms of global climate change. The figure is at least 14%, and that's the lowest estimate. So we need to make that clear. And in Ireland, it's 32%, according to the last figures, the EPA figures.
Are you vegan yourself?
I maintain a plant-based diet, yes. And so that's the first thing. We also need to address the argument that Ireland has this very clean, pure agriculture that doesn't emit like other countries. We do. It's a bit like comparing Polish coal to English coal. It's just a fundamentally emission-heavy product. You can't get away from that. And if you look at the statistics, Ireland does not do that well against other countries because we have a grass system. Okay. And grass-based production actually has higher methane emissions.
All right, well, John Comer is here as well, beside you there. John, what do you say to that, that it's just it's an industry that takes a heavy toll on the environment?
Yeah, it looks like tonight, Claire, I'm the meat and the sandwich between two vegans. I would like to address the point that you raised at the very intro. That farmers are worried about the growing veganism. No, the industry is on the planet for a long time, and it will be going forward. It's a healthy industry with the highest standards that farmers accept and maintain in order to have consumers enjoy a fine, tasty product and a very nutritious product.
Is veganism, though, not growing in popularity?
It is it's a very niche and it's very minute. But what I am extremely concerned about is, the fact that there's some sort of ethical equivalence between humans and animals, I think is just wrong. It's misleading. There is.
How do you know?
Well, that would be my interpretation, because I don't think that you can compare a human to a chicken. At least I wouldn't like to bring my children up thinking that there's an equivalence of standards between the two of us. But the point I would like to make, and very forcibly tonight, is that there would be a lot of potentially teenage children watching this programme tonight that might get notions that they can do without a rich source of protein and a rich source of calcium coming from the milk.
OK, well, maybe some of our vegans might explain to us how you manage that, particularly when it comes to children and a balanced diet. Yeah, we've a raised hand here, a gentleman with the beard. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. No, I was just saying, I don't think anyone's kind of equating humans and chickens together. It's just you have to look at the similarities, and the similarities are that, as Sandra said, like animals do feel pain, they do suffer, they do think, and anyone who has a dog knows that their dog is different than another dog. So it's not about saying humans and chickens are the same. You just kind of have to see that. You kind of have to question whether the Big Mac is worth it when these animals do feel pain and they do suffer.
What about what John says, though, the importance of maintaining a healthy diet, and when you take everything out that veganism requires you to take out, are you still going to be healthy?
There's protein in every single food in the world. Every single food in the world has protein in it. You can't not get enough protein. It's impossible.
OK. Yeah.
50-kilo bag of broccoli.
Sorry, John. Yeah, go ahead.
I say you would need a 50-kilo bag of broccoli to get enough protein or iron from the broccoli that you would get from a small sliver of prime beef. OK, we have a dietitian here. Where's Sarah? Sarah, sitting in the very front row there. You have a microphone on. Is that true?
Probably, I haven't actually ever calculated it out in terms of the broccoli. I would say, I mean, vegan diets from a health point of view often get bad press, and we tend to see the negative headlines. But done well, it can actually be very healthy. It does require a good bit of work, and it does require certain supplements. And I think any vegan here, and I know they mentioned it in the clip there, needs to take a B12 supplement, and that's one thing that we do get really from animal foods. I would often meet when I'm talking to people who are following a vegan diet, and they would talk about B12 in, for example, seaweed, but we know the levels there aren't good. How the body uses that isn't great, so we do need to supplement with that.
So you need to educate yourself if you're going to.
And that's the key thing. And we mentioned there about, say, teenagers. I would see where particularly teenage girls are looking at a vegan diet, but actually not so much from a compassion for animal point of view, but because they think, oh, well, I'm going to lose weight, or I'll just maybe cut out dairy, and they're not balancing it up with that. And I would think of a 15-year-old girl I spoke to recently, and she's given up all dairy. She's talking about being vegan, but she thinks she's getting all her calcium from a slice of lemon that she's taking in the day. So it's about balancing it. But in fairness, although I'm not vegan myself, when I do work with people who are vegan, they're generally very well educated about the nutrition from that point of view. The one thing that I do tend to find they miss is there's a very specific omega-3 called DHA, which is really only available from fish. And that's, although there is a different type of omega-3 available from plants, it doesn't have the same benefits with that.
We have a sheep farmer here. Where's Susanna sitting? Susanna, yes, we'll get a microphone to you. You think you can convert vegans, is that right?
Well, I have in the past.
How?
Well, by my cooking. One time I had this chicken salad. It takes about 2 days, and we had a person renting a room who was a vegan and had been for about 15 years. And at the end of the party, she was vegan throughout the festivities and everybody eating all the food. And I was walking through the hallway, and there she was, wolfing down the chicken salad that I'd spent 2 days making. And I said, what are you doing? You're vegan. You're not supposed to be eating that. And she said, it smelled so good, I had to. And then another time, an Easter meal I made, and I had a guest who was a vegan, a friend of mine, and I make a very mean ratatouille. And I also had a leg of lamb. And we were all consuming the leg of lamb, except for himself, and he'd been a vegan for a few years. And he succumbed to my leg of lamb.
Okay, well, Roger Yates, beside you from the Vegan Information Project, I assume you'd find that offensive?
Yes, very. You know, there's a lot of ignorance being B12 comes from bacteria, not from meat. Omega-3 comes from sea vegetables, not fishes. You know, there is, you know, some ignorance here. There's also a lot of kind of minimizing of what's going on here. We've talked about welfare. The vegan case is about rights, as Sandra was saying. I think that what's going on with our farmer next to me here is not that a vegan became a meat eater, is that somebody on a plant-based diet became a meat eater. Because vegans are ethical people. And if you've got an ethical reason for doing something, you stick to it. You know, it's a justice for all, peace, plant-based diet aspect to it, but it's actually a philosophy.
Okay, so what you're saying is you're not going to convert somebody who's doing it for the right reasons,
it's a
according to
philosophy.
you.
That turns it into an ideology.
On the climate change.
Yes, Cormac, yeah, and I'll come to you then.
It is important. I mean, the European Commission has carried out research, has measured, has looked at the footprint of various products right throughout the community, and Irish dairy and beef come out very good and very well on that.
Okay.
So I think it has to be, the point has to be made that we are sustainable, but we're not resting on our laurels. We're continuing to work to improve that.
I want to get to the people who've had their hands raised, because we're just coming to the end of this item here. In the row in front of you, Cormac, gentleman here with the hand raised. Yeah, we'll get the microphone to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, it just seems to me, I mean, I have 2 dogs I love very much, but I also have 3 kids, and I think there is a difference. And I think when you use the human rights argument about animals and human beings, there's a risk that you actually reduce the human rights of a human person down to the level of the animal as opposed to upwards. And I'm certainly more concerned about starving people in Ethiopia. That would be my priority. And I certainly respect...
But you eat cattle and you wouldn't eat the dogs.
No, well, if I was starving in Ethiopia, I might be tempted, but not my own dogs, hopefully.
Okay. Gentleman in the check shirt here, and just keep it brief if you will, because we're running out of time.
In terms of,
No, sorry, in front of you. We've heard from you before. Check shirt in front of you,
This woman talking about the sheep. If you stop your car at a field of sheep, you see loads of them limping around all the time. in fields, suffering all the time. And a local farmer to me told me one time that a farmer will never get a bit to a sheep because they're only worth 50 or 60 or 70 euros, so it won't pay them to get a bit to a sheep. So the sheep are always suffering from different things. And also we've created hell on earth for all the animals on farms, because take chickens for instance, say hens like locked away in cages and sheds. There could be 40 or 50,000 chickens in a shed. And they will never get to see a vet individually. The only time a vet would be called to a shed of chickens like that is if they have some terrible virus. And we have rescued...
Lauren is a farmer beside you. I mean, would it ever make sense for you not to call the vet if an animal is sick?
Last Sunday night, the vet was called at 11 o'clock, and we were up till 1 o'clock looking after 2 calves.
You know, that's calves, that's not sheep.
Well, I'm not a sheep farmer. That's the only reason why that's not the case. But Susanna will have brought animals too.
Standards in the world.
Yeah, we do.
The highest animal welfare standards, and I know farmers that would put their own health at risk to mind their animals.
It's not about right. Yeah, that doesn't make it right. Just because you make money out of it doesn't make it right.
OK, Sandra, you wanted to come back in there.
Welfare is absolutely irrelevant. They are not our property to use. We have interfered with them. We domesticated them 10,000 years ago, and we use them as if they are inanimate objects. They're sentient, feeling beings. They're not our property. I would like, you know, veganism is also a human rights issue, and I'd like the dietitian to tell the viewers at home to please quote the World Dietetics position statements on plant diets.
Okay.
And I'll quote it for you. All the major World Dietetics Associations say that a 100% plant diet devoid of animal products is nutritionally adequate and helps treat and prevent most of the diseases, the diabetes, the heart disease and some
We're out of
cancers.
time, but just a very quick response. Do you have a response to that, Sarah?
Yes, absolutely.
Sarah's a dietitian.
No, certainly. I mean, plant-based diets, absolutely healthy. I've never said that vegan diets weren't healthy. All I'm saying is that we need to watch certain things with it.
All right. We're out of time. We're out of time. Oliver, last word to you, and then we've got to move on.
I just want to make the point of the connection between veganism and protecting the environment. And I find that quite ironic because one of the main sources of proteins in vegan and vegetarian diets are soya-based. And the soya bean is one of the top 5 commodities farmed in the world, which
and animal foods are far denser in soybeans. If you're eating a piece of meat, you're eating a lot more.
You know what? We'll come back to this because I know there's an awful lot more in it. But Oliver and Sandra, thank you very much, and all our contributors from the audience as well. Thank you very much.